Hi, I'm John Milton Lawrence, founder of Product Demonstrators Workshop. What we do is we teach and train people how to promote and market as seen on TV products. This is one of the only recession-proof businesses that I know. But we'll get a little bit into that a little bit later. First of all, we know the state of the economy. We know that the unemployment rate is 9.5%, some states higher. Also, in some states, unemployment is as high as 34%. We're talking about 1929, the Great Depression levels. It's pitiful. And when a job does become available, what happens? 1,000 people show up for one job. I'm going to show you how Product Demonstrators Workshop is not only recession-proof, but also it's blind to age. No age discrimination, no sex discrimination. You can be a woman or man, young or old, or in between. There's work for each and every one. Now, before I get into telling you a little bit more about Product Demonstrators Workshop, let me just give you a little bit of background information on myself. I was born in New York City. I'm from New York City, and I sold as seen on TV products with the likes of Chef Tony Notaro of infomercial fame, and quite a few of the other people who started in this business. You know about Ed McMahon, you know about the late, great Billy Mays, may he rest in peace. And a lot of different guys and females did this particular work that I did. My background goes back to, I am the eldest of 6 kids from John Milton Lawrence Sr. and Clora Lawrence, my beloved mother from Brevard, North Carolina, God rest her soul. And I grew up first as an Air Force brat, and then at the young age of around 15 or 16, Mama and Dad decided that they were going to divorce. Now, I believe each and every one, me and my siblings, were all devastated. Even though we never really talked about it, divorce can do ugly things to a person, especially a young child, when you grow up thinking that your parents are going to be together forever and that they're going to love each other forever. And in a perfect world, perhaps, but that isn't what happened. After they divorced, my father went his separate way. My mother moved into the Bland housing projects in Flushing, New York. And as we grew up, you know, I decided at a young age to drop out of high school in my junior year and to go to work to be able to help my mother. Seeing my mother, you know, go through changes and cry about her finances, I mean, it just broke my heart. It just devastated me. So I would go out, but I had really no special skills to speak of. Just the fact that I had the desire that I knew I had to help my mother. Even as a very little kid, I could remember my mother getting into a car accident when she got her first car, and I couldn't have been any more than probably 5 years old. And she was a fender bender, and she got out of her car and her new convertible, and the guy got out and they were arguing, and I was 5 years old, and I just went and jumped between him and my mother and said, "You're not going to hit my mother." As a young child, very protective of his mother. And so, you know, I felt a need that I had to go to work, but no special skills, as I said. I went from one dead-end job to the other. Well, I went to a party one time, and I met this young lady who, unbeknownst to me, would become my future teenage bride. Christina Nell was her name, and we married very young. At the age of 17, we got married. And at the same time, we had our first child. But things were really not good for us in the sense that one dead-end job to the other, I wasn't getting anywhere. Things got so bad that I've told this story before, that we had to move into my brother-in-law's attic. in Queens, New York. And it just really kind of devastated me. But I got a job that wasn't particularly that bad. I actually liked it. I was a security guard at the New York Public Library in Queens. And in school, I liked books, but it really was no big thing. But working at the library kind of showed me a love of books, and somehow, some way, I came across a copy of Napoleon Hill's book, Think and Grow Rich. And that book was instrumental in helping to change things in my life. Now, as a young man, I remember going back and forth to the unemployment office, and there was a sweet little old lady. Her name was Mrs. Jacobs. And Mrs. Jacobs kind of took a special interest. I don't know what it was. She saw something in me, but she would always tell me, John, I think you'd be a great employee, a great worker. You just need to get a skill. You need to develop a skill. It's kind of like the old saying that says, give me a fish and I'll eat for a day. But if you teach me to fish, I'll eat for a lifetime. And I kind of thought about that. And Mrs. Jacobs was right. And so anyway, getting back to my story, we moved into my brother-in-law's attic. And there's also a spiritual side to this, because I came across a chapter in Napoleon Hill's book that talked about transmuting your thoughts. It talked about when you get a negative thought, change it immediately to a positive thought and dwell on only positive things and to attract the things. The spiritual side for me was that me and my friend, we were always doing all kinds of things. We took transcendental meditation. We did this, we did that. We fasted. Well, I decided that I would not only transmute my thoughts, but I would fast for 30 days. And I would pray. And what I would pray for, what I would direct my mind and my attention on and towards, was a better paying job. So I did this all the time, working, going to work. It was a struggle. I'm not going to lie to you. After about 30 days, I did my fast, and I continued to practice my positive thinking. And what happened was 45 days passed, and still no change. And I was at that point, I don't know what's going on. I did everything that was explained in the book. Nothing's working for me. And it's just like the late great magician Harry Houdini said, when he said, just when you start to give up, the magic begins to work. Well, that's exactly what happened for me. Around 45 days, I was getting just a little bit negative and a little bit discouraged. And I got home from work one day, and my wife approached me real excitedly, telling me that she was down on Main Street that day in the Woolworth store, because her mother worked there. And she said she ran across this girl named Leslie, and she was demonstrating this product. And the girl had even offered her a job. But she said, she told her she couldn't do it, but she knew someone that could. And that someone was me. And she told me about it. I got all the information. I went down and I met with Leslie that next day. I didn't even go to my other job. And I was hired immediately on the spot. Now, prior to this, I'd never spoken in front of people other than in my class in school. And even then, we all have trepidation when it comes to speaking in front of people. Our mind, our palms get sweaty, our head floods with all these thoughts, the imagination. What if they laugh at me? What if I fail? But I do remember one time in school having to recite and to memorize and then recite the Gettysburg Address. And I had a teacher, Mrs. DeAnges, I think her name was. She really liked what I did then. So I guess I kind of went back on that and thought, well, wow, if I could do that, I could certainly get up and demonstrate this product. And so I got the job. Leslie trained me and gave me a copy of the sales presentation. We call it a canned spiel or presentation, sales talk, if you will. And it was just fantastic. You know, when I made my first sale and then my second sale, it was great. And then about 3 or 4 days later, Leslie quit, and a blonde-haired, middle-aged woman showed up. Her name was Norma, and she showed me how she did the demonstration, and I learned a little bit from her, and you know, I got a little bit better at it, and come to find out that Norma was actually the future fiance of the boss, the owner. 2 weeks pass, and I'm demonstrating this product, and what a difference it made as far as my finances, in the sense that I was making about $500 cash a week. Now, back in the day, I'm talking about 1975, and I should tell you a little bit how old I am. Back in 1975, that was great money, cash. I was responsible for my own income taxes and that sort of thing, but to go from making minimum wage, whatever it was then, to $500 cash a week, it felt as though I had hit the lottery. It just really seemed like that. It made a difference. We were able to move out of my brother-in-law's attic, get our first apartment. It just opened up a whole new world for me. The bottom line is, about 2 weeks later, this real tall, Babe Ruth looking gentleman, dressed to the nines in a shirt, tie, suit, came in, and he had a very commanding presence. I didn't know who he was, and he stood around and he watched me do my demonstration, and then he came over and he introduced himself as the owner. His name was James Siniglia from Florida, from Coral Gables, Florida. I remember that. He showed me how to do the demonstration, and he undoubtedly was the best at it. He had locations all throughout the New York area, and when I watched him demonstrate, a light went off in my head, because I knew then that I could take my income from $500 a week to sky's the limit. And that is the first part of my story. What I'm going to tell you and show you, the only reason that a lot of people are not doing what I'm doing is that they don't know about it. If you don't know about something, there's no possible way you can do it. But the one thing that I learned in getting that job is that you can try as hard as you want to change things on the outside, but you've got to have a program. It first starts inside your mind. It first starts with a way of thinking. You have to do your inside work, so to speak, to prepare yourself to go from point A to point B. What I am going to be revealing to you in upcoming videos in this series is how you can go from literally nothing, unemployed, and go from point A to point B. You can go work for someone in this business if that's your desire. You can promote yourself to the ownership and presidency of your own company through this program. It's all up to you. You can start this business if you choose to work on your own on a shoestring, and you can be up and running in less than 2 weeks. It is an absolute guarantee, 100% recession-proof business. Now, that's pretty much all that I'm going to tell you in this short video for now, but make sure that you tune in for the second video, because boy, oh boy, we're going to blow your mind. This is John Milton Lawrence saying, thank you for listening, and Godspeed.